I guess we're live.
Hi.
Good morning, friends. Happy Thursday. Oh, this is great. I'm Gabby Gaudet, joined by Geena, Lucille, and Michael Joyce, who is joining us from someone's car. How's it going, guys?
It's good. It's not just
it's
anyone's
Derby,
car.
right?
It's Christina's car. You get two for the price of one on there. I apologize for a number of things. One, I'm in a car because there was a wardrobe malfunction, had to do with hair defrizzer and a borrowed dress. We'll talk about that at a different moment in time. But I made it. I also didn't realize when I put my name into the chat that it was going to come up as such. So yes, I am Michael H. Mother effing Joyce. I apologize. I hope HR isn't watching this.
I can't. This is going to be a long 30 minutes.
By the way.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I had a cooler name now.
Hey, I'm here to please. Hi, Geena. Good to see you again.
It's so great to be here. Michael H. Mother effing Joyce.
All right. Yeah, we're just hitting the ground running here. This is fantastic. We are here to talk about the Kentucky Derby 150 happening in a couple of days. It's a big day, though, today. Derby, obviously, the Oaks tomorrow. Do want to mention, though, that we do have a special offer this year with the $20 Derby no sweat win bet. So do take advantage of this in your account. So obviously, it's up to $20 back in your account on your top selection, your bet in the Kentucky Derby. So we'll touch on that a little bit more towards the end of the show as well, but do take advantage of that opportunity. Guys, let's get straight into it. Fierceness, right? He is signed on as the morning line favorite. I do know that Sierra Leone, last I checked, he was taking a lot of money as well. These are going to be your top two choices in this year's Kentucky Derby. So this morning was actually my first day out watching horses train. And it was an awesome opportunity to be able to see Fierceness, Sierra Leone, and some of the other contenders. Geena, you've been out here every single morning. Mike, I can't say the same about you. I don't know where you've been. On an airplane?
I was in Vegas. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a look at Fierceness. And Geena, I want to get your take on him. When I saw him this morning, I thought he looked great. When he is just a horse that seems to have so much speed in the afternoon, but you would not think that he has it when you watch him training in the morning. He's kind of off the bridle, really cool, really calm in his gallops. What have you seen from him over the course of the week and today?
Same. The horse really just moves very bland. He's kind of like in the morning, it's like just plain oatmeal. You can see here the rider, even where his feet are in the irons, he's kind of pumping, trying to get the horse to get under himself and just go, which, you know, I spoke with Johnny V last night about this horse, just briefly, like in a little conversation. And he said, he's a fun little horse. He says, yeah, he's a fun little horse. He's different. And which tells me he's just a different type of horse. He doesn't show much now. And he doesn't really look impressive in any gallops. And even going to the gate today, he was back there and we were back there with the gate crew. Just a very laid back, normal, plain Jane kind of horse until he just lights out, runs down the track in the afternoon.
I did a handicapping seminar last night, and Mike, I'm going to bring this point up to you because I thought it was an interesting comment from one of my fellow handicappers on the table. And this person said that fierceness, you either single or you completely toss him. Do you feel that way? And if so, which direction would you go in?
Well, that's a wagering question. It's not as intriguing to me because I feel like you're saying he's either going to win or not. I mean, those are really the only two options for any horse in any race.
He's either going to win or not run at all. It's either a game or not show up. Do you feel that we could see that from him?
No, because his B game is pretty darn good. Let's say like the Holy Bull was a disappointing effort for him when he was third. If he runs the Holy Bull, there's only like 5 or 6 horses that are capable of running a better race than that, right? So I don't necessarily agree with that. And people like to say that of speed horses oftentimes because they feel like, well, he's either going to get the lead and run away with it, or he's going to get sizzled and not be there in the end, as if those are the only two options for a horse on the lead. Horses who run on the lead, every bit of which they can run on the lead, they can get pressed, they can dig in and hold on for a second like Smarty Jones did in the Belmont, right? So I don't know that he's a toss out of the number if he doesn't run his race. I will say, though, the point that it brings up that I do agree with is that he's either going to run his race and run off the screen, and if he doesn't run his race, that's the biggest question. If you're trying to beat him, you're saying he's not coming with his A game because his A game is so far superior to everybody else.
It is at any speed figure you look at, but I have been looking at the thoroughbred figs, and he is significantly faster. His best race is significantly faster than any of his competition in this year's Kentucky Derby. To me, he also looks like he gets a really nice ideal trip under Johnny Velasquez. I don't mind the post position for him. It kind of looks like the pace should be right in front of him, and he kind of sits out in the clear. I feel very strongly about fierceness that, if he does deliver his A or B game, I think he's going to win this and hopefully get a good trip. Let's shift gears to Catching Freedom. When your car buddy in there, Mike, I was on a show with Christina a couple of days ago, and we watched the last work from Catching Freedom. And I do feel like this horse is giving out some mixed signals to people, at least in the morning. Geena, I'll start with you. And what's been your impression of Catching Freedom so far this week?
I think he's a very useful, valuable horse, but I do think the horse has a little bit of a showboat type of quality about him. And you can see that right now, him just getting really strong on the bridle and pulling. He's showing himself, but I have seen him spit the bit as well. So that does make me a little bit, tread lightly with Catching Freedom. He's a very talented horse, and I do believe he could show up, but I do see a bit of a showmanship about him, but without any value behind it.
Yeah, so Mike, there 2, 3, 4, talking about Sierra Leone, Mystic Dan, Catching Freedom. All of these horses with these post positions are all next to one another, and they all seem to have a similar running style. I think Catching Freedom might have a little bit more speed than Mystic Dan or Sierra Leone. But what do you make of Catching Freedom's chances? And I don't know if you had the chance to see his last work, but your overall impression of this horse.
Well, me looking at a work is not going to give anybody any insight. I mean, let's be honest.
I hear you're a big ear guy. How are his ears in the morning?
Oh my God, those ears! They're awesome. He's got the ears of a champion.
Were they flicking? Were they back? Were they forward?
I don't. Are they pierced? Is he wearing earrings? Look, I don't like to project what I think a horse is supposed to look like working because I really don't have that gift. But I will say this, the thing about Catching Freedom, the way I read his past performances that I really like, he gets incrementally better with each and every start. He almost has a perfect thoroughbred pattern, right? Where every race is faster than the race before. But if you project where he's going to run again, right? If you put him up there and say he's going to improve a couple of points on thoroughbred figures, he's still a couple of fierceness, but then he's in that next tier with the, Sierra Leone, Just Steel, who had a very fast run in the Arkansas Derby. I think people don't realize how fast that was. He ran a 1 on the thoroughbred sheets. I think he's a very nice horse. And if fierceness doesn't win, he is certainly in the mix with, about 5 or 6 other horses to be that next flight. But I think, the training, by the way, my ride's here. By the way, but the way his racing and his training is up to you guys to decipher. The racing, though, the way he's gotten better with each start, that to me is the biggest hallmark of a horse who's coming into the Derby in fine fettle.
Go ahead, Geena.
Do you feel with Catching Freedom, do you feel that more of an inside post is going to be a little bit harder for him to navigate through with traffic? Because I don't know. I see this horse spitting the bit sometimes.
Well, I actually thought he ran really well in the Louisiana Derby because he kept on having to take back, and then re-rally, take back, re-rally. So I like to see that quality in a horse because it's likely going to happen to him in the Kentucky Derby. On the opposite side, Sierra Leone, in his trips, he's never been stopped. He kind of gets into his rhythm out in the clear and he rolls like a freight train. I worry about Sierra Leone getting stopped and having to pick up the pieces again. I don't know. We don't know if he can do that. We know that Catching Freedom can do that because we've seen it, at least in the Louisiana Derby. So I do think that's a useful attribute for him. I personally wasn't keen on his most recent work. I really think strong gallop outs are important in this stage of the game if you're going to go 1.25 miles, and I didn't see that from him. Let's take a look at another horse, Resilience. And Resilience, he took to the main track today, galloping for Hall of Famer Bill Mott. And Mike, I'll start with you on this one. He's a horse that I feel like took a long time to get going, kind of a typical Bill Mott trainee. But once he got going, I mean, he has been very impressive. Most recently, the winner of the Wood Memorial.
I'm not a big Resilience guy. Mick Cronin is a big Resilience guy. He's a horse owner. He's the coach of UCLA basketball. He was texting me on this horse. I think he was all over this horse 3 starts ago before he really came around. And there's been a lot of buzz about him from workers, from his jockey, etc., before he put it all together. So he did fulfill a lot of that expectation from the people around him. So I'll give him that. I'm just kind of so-so on him. I don't think he looks like a Derby winner to me. I just think he's a cut below. I don't think he's good enough. But, if he jumps up and wins, I think it would be a shocking victory. I think if you want to use him in the number underneath, I wouldn't stop anybody from doing that. But I could be wrong. I mean, you always have to be careful of horses that are figuring things out coming into the Derby because they're all developing. None of these horses are finished products, right? They're just the finished product, as finished of a product as they can be at this stage in their career. And he's certainly one that is coming around.
Yeah, he's a big, beautiful horse, Geena. I happened to see him train this morning, and I really love the way he goes. He's a beautiful, beautiful horse. He's a big horse. And, I figure, I wonder how he's going to navigate a trip in the Kentucky Derby. And although he is beautiful and he might be able to win a race like the Belmont at Saratoga or maybe the Travers or something, I do think that maybe he's just not quite, he hasn't caught up to the rest of his 3-year-olds just yet. He looks like an improving horse, clearly, but I don't think the Wood Memorial was particularly strong. I'm just kind of going with the angle that he really does need to improve in order to win the Kentucky Derby. What have you seen from him in the mornings, though? Do you like him after seeing him?
I actually do. So, he's had softer spots than a lot of these horses in this race, which I don't really want to knock him for that or his path because he's had easier races coming into this. So he hasn't really had to exert a lot. I do think this horse is very athletic, and you can see the lightness in his gallop when he comes down the lane. And if the weather perceives itself like it's supposed to, and we have a lot of rain, this horse that could really work in his favor. He pushes off the ground with his hind end nicely, and he's got such a light front end where he can really accelerate, and he would favor that.
So just a touch, Resilience kind of took some time to get going, just a touch. He figured things out pretty early. I mean, he's only making his 4th career start. He won first time out. He came back to finish second to Deterministic in the Gotham, and then, of course, second in the Bluegrass against Sierra Leone. Good thing about him, we know that he likes a sloppy track. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that, because I think he handled the sloppy track in the Gotham. I don't think he thrived on the sloppy track. We may be dealing with sloppy surface on Saturday. I know the rain chances look pretty high tomorrow. It looks like they've dwindled down a little bit for Saturday, so fingers crossed. But Mike, this horse is lightly raced. It looks like he's come around very, very quickly. I personally loved his last work for Brad. But does he need to take that huge step forward in order to be a factor? And what kind of trip does this horse get?
Well, first of all, he is the most likely to take the largest step forward. I've always said I like a horse doing anything for the second time. He's never done anything twice. He's never gone the same distance twice, never run on the same surface twice. This will be his first time doing something twice, and he's going 2 turns, a route of ground for the second time. And he's gotten better with each successive start. There is a ton of talent there. He is certainly the horse that can improve the most in the Derby. You can just take the ceiling right off his potential. And I don't think there's anybody else in the field. We kind of know what most of the horses in this field are capable of. I don't think we have any idea what he's capable of. I don't think we've gotten to the bottom of this horse, and he's in the hands of a master. I think he's a horse you can get really excited about. If he were to jump up and beat Fierceness on the square, he's the one horse I would not be surprised if he comes out and just explodes with talent and runs his best race. Now, I don't know about the works and how he's been preparing. That's your expertise. But as far as a horse that I've seen in the races, the way his thoroughgraph pattern is, the way his buyers improve, the way he's been brought along so quickly and thrown into the Derby in just his 4th career start, he absolutely deserves to be here. And I think he ran a sensational race in Keeneland.
Geena, I saw him up close today when he was training. He's a massive looking horse. You don't even really get that perspective when you watch him training on videos or when you watch his workouts. He kind of is the full package here. I mean, he's a beautiful looking horse physically. He looks like a quality runner, like a Derby horse. And clearly he's been working really well.
He has been working sensationally. He really, really has. And I also love his post position with all those horses on the inside. I think he's just gonna, if he can break like he has done in the past, he's gonna get a really nice trip. And Michael, I'm 100% behind you. I think this horse has room for improvement. They haven't even tapped into all the gears that he has and the potential. And every time I see him work, this is what I'm kind of getting at with Catching Freedom. If you put Catching Freedom and Just a Touch next to each other and the gallops, I would honestly go with just a touch every single time. And it's not just because Catching Freedom looks all bowed up and bullish, but Just a Touch has a way about him where he's not exerting too much energy, and he's reserving himself for when it really is necessary, and shows me a bit of a sensibility about him. He's very sensible.
Someone's knocking on the door. Should I open it?
They want to join.
Absolutely.
I'm in Norm's
I'm in a
office.
minivan. Answer the door.
I'm in Norm's office, and I'm trying to. Let's see. Who's at
I'm about
the
to
door?
get kicked out of the Airbnb, so.
Yes. Okay. So I've been told I have to move my car during this live show.
Well, let's do it.
Just throw him the keys and just tell him.
I really don't know what to do here, guys.
Is he gonna? I mean, if you just gave him the keys, would he know how to drive your 1978 Gremlin?
Probably not.
Okay.
And
the manual.
So this is he needs. It's the he needs to pick up some manure here. So
tell him we're shoveling out a whole lot on this show.
You never know what live television or social media is going to do.
If he's looking for manure, right, he came to the right place.
Mike, I'm going to have you pick it up here with the Forever Young Gallop, and I'm going to be right back.
All right. This is Forever Young. I'm really excited to see this because, Geena, I'm of the opinion that Japan is breeding and racing the best horses in the world. And I want to know your opinion on this work. Give me what your eyes tell you on this gallop today and what you see physically from Forever Young, because this is the first time I've seen him.
Okay. So Forever Young, they've been doing it. I love that. I love seeing him buck around and want to play. It just shows that he's in that peaking momentum of movement. Um, yes, this horse, the horsemanship is so different compared to Americans in here. You know, you're going to see this horse on the track a couple like hours. You know, he's out there, he's walking, jogging. Really good, sensible horse, very well schooled. You know, he's been in front of massive crowds too. Um, Movement wise and the way that he looks, he's a very straightforward horse. He has a lot of mileage, you can say, with the schooling, and that just is going to help this horse. He's going to need all the help he can get with this big field. But you are very right. They're breeding to win a Kentucky Derby, and they are really handcrafting and picking everything apart so that they can take one of these victories home, because it would mean the world to them. But this horse is very nice. I wasn't crazy about his last work. I think it was there was a lot left to be said about it. It was very flat, and I think To Password had a more stronger work, but without putting too much energy and effort into it. So I'm curious to see where this horse is going to be. This is my wild card. This is my up in the air. I think the horse has a lot of talent. He travels over this dirt really well. He's a very straightforward horse, and I've never seen him put a foot wrong. I can say that.
All right, back from the manure disposal.
Back,
Gabby Gaudet.
baby.
This is the manure show.
Yeah. So hey, let me just give you my thoughts on Forever Young. So James Lee, we call him the cat researcher, one of the smartest handicappers I know. His take on Forever Young was that this horse looks better and looks to be a more finished product than Derma Sotogake was last year. People forget Derma Sotogake ran very well in the Derby. He passed a bunch of horses. Didn't get a great trip, but a good showing. And then he was on the shelf and comes back and runs second in the Breeders' Cup Classic in his next start. So that was a legitimate horse that they brought over last year. And he thinks Forever Young looks better than him. So if Forever Young is better than Derma Sotogake and he gets a trip, I'll put him up there with Just a Touch as a horse that I would not be shocked if he actually beat Fierceness on the square. And that's about it. I mean, those are about the only two horses that I could imagine running a race better than what Fierceness is capable of. I have to use my imagination to do that because I haven't done that yet. But I could convince myself that they are capable.
Well, actually, Mike, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw this horse today. I wasn't really sure. Again, it's a tough perspective when you're looking at the horses on replays or when you're looking at videos of them training, but he is a big, beautiful horse, and he has kept his condition. He has maintained really good weight from what I've seen. And that's huge when you think about what he's had to do over the course of the past several months, going from Japan to Saudi, which the connection said it was not an easy trip for this horse. It was really tough on him. He wins there. Then he goes from Saudi to Dubai and the UE Derby. And, he wins that, and he shows a lot of tenacity and grit. And now he ships all the way here. So sometimes horses can get tucked up a little bit. They can lose weight when they have that much traveling. I know Europeans and the Japanese, they're a little bit, but they travel more, right? Than I would say horses in the United States. But it's always really good to see a horse holding on to that weight after such a big flight and travel experience coming over here. So I agree with you, Mike. I think he's a very, very interesting horse, and clearly he is extremely talented, undefeated coming into the Derby. All right, Catalytic. This is the last Derby horse that we'll look at. He galloped this morning. He also gate schooled. Now, this horse he's another one that's come a long way in a very short amount of time. Now, I sometimes hear people say that they really like him as a long shot, that he improved with added distance. It takes a lot to go from just a 3/4 race to a 1.125 race, and they like him. And then on the other side, Mike, it seems like people are thinking, well, someone had to finish second to Fierceness, and it just happened to be this horse, and they're really it's a toss for them. Where are you in regards to Catalytic?
I'm in that second camp. Somebody had to finish second that day. And 13 lengths is a long way back. And there could have been 10 horses in between the two, and Fierceness still could have won by 6. So I'm not on the catalytic train. If he wins, I will be shocked and dumbfounded. And at that point, I've really stopped putting a lot of effort and work into this horse. I think he'll be another 15 lengths back when all is said and done today. Now Saturday. That being said, who knows what he can be down the line? Like I said, they're all unfinished products. I don't want to bash the horse, but I just think he's in a little too deep.
What say you, Geena?
You know, I really do. I do like this horse. I do agree with Michael that there is a lot of growing that this horse needs to do. When I first saw him, I called him a chunk monk, and he really had to grow into himself, and he sure has. I think there's levels to this, right? So he's at one level and he might jump up to the next level. This is a huge task for this horse this Saturday, but he's doing everything right. And if he can do everything right on Derby Day in a 20 horse field, if there's slop, the conditions, you never know. He could be up there. He has shown speed and potential and talent and power and a good mind. And Michael, look at his ears just galloping down the lane there.
So he loves it.
No, I really do. And he schools great in the gate. Like I said, this horse does everything right. Safi Joseph and his whole team do an exceptional job. This horse is smart and he's very kind. And I like to see that. I like to see that in a horse, especially on a big field.
All right, before we get to the Oaks, let's answer some questions. I want to look at the question from Andre Gonzalez. Johnny, we'll pop it up here for a second. Johnny looking for a similar trip as Authentic, epic ride drawing on the outside of Fierceness. I think now Johnny may have to be a little more aggressive to get stalking position. What kind of trip does Fierceness get in your mind, Mike?
I don't think he needs the lead. I think there's been a lot made out of like the other speed in this race. First of all, I think if he wants the lead, he can get it. I think he's fast enough to get the lead just naturally, but I don't think he needs it. I think he can sit second or third, I think he's going to get a very good trip. I think he's likely to get a very good trip. He can't stumble away from the gate as he has a couple of times in his 5-race career. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But I think all the arguments against his trip that you hear are arguments against everybody in the field's trip, right? As we can hear the beeping of the manure wagon going right into the barn. Yeah. And maybe that's because I'm talking that they need to back up and pick up some more. But I do feel like everything lines up for him. The only thing that really is the number one problem with Fierceness losing is fierceness. If he doesn't get away from the gate, it's going to be a long day. But I just feel like he can sit whatever trip he wants. And Johnny's got the best decision making in the game. If he feels like the lead's there for the taking, he's going to take it. And if he feels like he doesn't want to get sizzled and he sees somebody else doing something dumb to the inside and going too fast, he's just going to sit. I think the trip is of less concern for Fierceness than almost any other horse in the race.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, Matthew Wallace saying seems like Fierceness will have a similar trip to Brig Brown. Say that 5 times fast. Obviously, he meant Big Brown. I definitely agree with you, Mike. I don't think this is a horse that needs a lead. I think the most important thing is for him to get out of the gate and not have to play catch up with the rest of the field. He just doesn't seem like a horse that likes to be asked to do it, right? He wants to break well. If he finds himself in a spot where he's stalking out in the clear, I don't think that's an issue. If he breaks really fast and he finds himself on the lead, I don't think that's an issue. He just needs to get out of the starting gate, which obviously was an issue. I don't think it was his fault in the Holy Bowl. He got bumped, but it was his fault in the Champagne last year when he wasn't standing well and he lunged out of the starting gate. Before we get to more questions, and please keep the questions coming in, let's touch on the Oaks because there was a defection that was announced this morning. So unfortunately, Tappet Janali, she is out, but that does mean that Our Pretty Woman does draw in off the AE. Candide still another one on the AE, but this one for trainer Steve Asmussen, she is a big time contender against this field. She's 15-1 on the morning line, but she comes into this race in good order. I saw her this morning too. She looked fantastic. What do you, Mike, what do you make of this filly now drawing into the race? And what kind of, does it make a difference in your mind? Is she one that you wanted to use?
She's definitely a contender. And for people that wanted to bet her in the Oaks, this was far and away the best case scenario because she draws in off the AE. I don't care what anyone says. AEs drawing in get forgotten. Even in a race like the Oaks, they get forgotten. And I don't necessarily think that people forget them because they forget to turn the page and see the AE. I think people have done their work and they just don't want to, at this point, have to consider her. I think you're not going to get 15-1 because I think there's going to be enough steam behind her, but you're going to get a much better price on her by virtue of the fact that she didn't have enough points to get into the body of the field. And then she draws in than you would have had she racked up a few more points in her prep races and been in the body of the field. She certainly has the talent. I don't know if she's as talented as, the top 2 or 3 choices, but she's right there. I mean, there's not a lot separating her, and she's a major player.
Yes, our Pretty Woman, she finished second to Tarifa, and you have Tarifa, Thorpeda Anna, and Just FYI, which are one of the top 3 that really catch my eye. But having that said, when our Pretty Woman got drawn in, I got so excited. Lights out. I'm excited. She's going to be a game changer, especially being on the outside.
Yeah, she's a player, and the Oaks is as great of a race as the Derby is this year. You can make the case that the Oaks is the better wagering event because of all the horses you just mentioned. Todd Pletcher's horse on the outside. You've got at least 5 or 6 horses that at this point in the time look every bit as good as one another and are just as likely. Whoever comes out of the Oaks, and the Oaks always has a big play as to who's the champion filly at the end of the year. And it always answers this question, seems like. But I feel like this year even more so than others because you have so much talent in this division right now, and they're all pretty evenly matched. I'm very excited to see who comes out the queen of this field.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be a beautiful race.
By the way, Geena, can I just talk about the no sweat Derby bet? Because betting the Derby is one of the hardest races we bet all year. So we always did that money back special where it's like, oh, you get your money back if your horse finishes second or third. Well, yeah, you know how hard it is to finish in the top 3 in the Derby? So for the no sweat Derby bet, you bet $20 on a horse to win. If they don't win, it doesn't matter if they finish second or 20th, you'll get that money back in the form of a racing bonus. So it's a no sweat Derby bet on FanDuel Racing. Just check it out and get involved. And even as an employee and someone who all those years with TVG, I got to opt into all those money back special promos and everything we did. I will say this because I know people in our customer service department, please opt in. There's nothing we can do for you if you don't opt in. It is the number 1 call or the number 1 complaint they get. Oh, what happened to my no sweat? You have to opt in. So do the opting in, please.
Will do.
Well, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah. I guess we're done here. There are some other questions coming in, but you know what, guys? Mike, I'm sure you need to get out of the car and get to the set. I am
get out of the minivan. It's a minivan.
Okay, in the minivan. I am on air in less than 30 minutes. Geena, you have a fabulous day, and thank you to all for joining us here on this show.